Hi, everybody. I'm Molly Cash. I'm the COO of the ISA. Thank you so much for joining us tonight to talk about writing holiday movies with Anna White. We are super excited to have her here tonight. And clearly you are all too, because this knocked it out of the park with the amount of people that are on here tonight. We're super excited about it. I'm just going to say a couple things that are going on in the ISA, and then I'm going to let them take it away. If you missed it, last week we did our table read event, and we read the Winning a Pilot Nantucket by Muggs Cahill. She won the Table Read My Screenplay competition. It was fantastic. If you missed it, it's up on our site right now on our pro tips page, which is under ISA Insider. It's also on our YouTube channel, so please watch it. And then we have a couple more great events coming up. Next week, Max is doing his webinar on loglines and synopsis. And the week after that, March 4th, we're talking to Janika and Jashika James, who are showrunners, and talking about their journey from staff writer up to showrunners. And then, this just in, if you are in the Chicagoland area, we are doing a live event, y'all, our first one in 2 years for St. Patty's Day. St. Patty's Day falls on a third Thursday, so we got to take advantage. So ISA, Creative Cypher, and Loyola are doing a joint event in Chicago. It's not on the site yet, but it will be probably in the next week. So stay tuned. And then we're hoping in April, we're going to open up some cities again. So hopefully that all comes to fruition. LA and Chicago and a few other cities. So check out the events page for more info on that in the coming weeks. And then just want to give a shout out to Shayna. She, if you don't know, has started a couple of new offerings for the ISA. She does some office hours where you can go in and you get to chat to her about pretty much anything you want, your script or the industry in general, or how to get to the next level, or how to use the ISA site, however, whatever you want to talk about. And she's also doing pitch practice sessions. So you get to pitch your project to an exec, but in a safe space. So you can get all of those exec questions and also work on it to get it up to speed so that you can go out and do this thing called pitching.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she's doing great. We're getting great feedback. She's fantastic. She's been in the business for a long time on both sides of pitching. So she knows where it's at.
Hello, everybody, and happy holidays in February. We are here with our amazing special guest, Anna White, who is a writer extraordinaire for many, 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 many Hallmark holiday movies and a few Lifetime thrillers. And I know she loves that. We're going to talk about that also. But we are here to get the scoop from Anna on everything holiday, Christmas, Hallmark movie making. And by the look of the attendance and the registrations, you guys really want to know this information. So we're going to get right into it. Anna, I'm going to let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and your background. And then let's just go right into sort of like your origin story. Let's find out how you started, and then we'll go from there on how you got into writing these types of movies.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me here. I've never talked to this many people at once. I'm glad I can't see everyone at once. Yeah, so let's see, when I was like 15, I knew I wanted to make movies and work in TV and film. And so I went to Loyola Marymount University, and they have a screenwriting major program, which is a great program. It was while I was there that I got to intern in the writer's offices at the TV show Smallville, which was my favorite show at the time, and Melrose Place. And that was kind of just a surreal experience to see, like, oh my God, these people get paid to sit in a room and talk about my favorite characters for like 8 hours, 8 to 10 hours. And so I just like, I really wanted to do that. It just, reaffirmed everything. And then, kind of the reality of, because film school is fun. They teach you the creative side. They teach you the craft. This is how you write a screenplay. This is the formula, blah, blah, blah. They don't really teach you about breaking into the business at all. And so that was kind of a big reality hit when I graduated. I was just trying to get, exactly, it's like, I just wanted a PA job. That was hard to come by. I worked at a visual effects company at first. I was fired from that job. They claimed they just needed one person to answer phones. I don't know if that was the real reason. But luckily some of my connections at Smallville got me a post PA job on Charlie's Angels. people probably don't know they made that because it only lasted 4 episodes. Then did a few others, finally got in a writer's office at Nikita, and then at elementary. And basically it was just constant, either the show would get canceled or they wouldn't move me up because someone else couldn't get moved up, or, you know, politics.
Sure.
Stuff like that. So, and then I, you know, was always writing on the side. I actually had a writing partner for a while, and we're really trying to break into, like, you know, the CW, ABC family space, with those kind of scripts. We wrote tons of pilots. We got an agent. He repped us for 2 years. Nothing came of it, so he dropped us. My writing partner was like, I've had it with LA. She moved to Colorado, found everything she was looking for, is a producer on an HGTV show.
Nice.
Yeah, and I went back to writing solo, and I was at the time I was on elementary as a writer's PA, and I turned in procedural examples, I turned in pitches, and it just, like, you know, it was like, oh, it's good, but it's more of a bones episode, or like it never hit, and I was getting really frustrated. You know, as writers know, you have a whole portfolio of pilots and whatnot, nothing happens. And so then in 2016, I was over at actually my friend from college's house, and her mom had a Hallmark Christmas movie on in the background. And I'd seen them here and there, and like I knew of it, but I hadn't really like thought about, oh my God, wait, who writes these? Because I was so ingrained in TV writing step-by-step process. You get in a writer's room, you get support staff, you get a freelance, you get staff there, you move up. Like that was just so like ingrained in me. And so it wasn't until I was watching it, I was like, oh, I could write these. These are fun. I love romantic comedies. That's these pilots are what I'm writing. Might as well look at this. So I went ahead, I watched tons of Hallmark Christmas movies. I broke down what the formula was, and I wrote one on spec, just, you know, something within that vein. I maybe showed it to 1 or 2 people, got some feedback. And then I was like, okay, how am I going to break into this? And this is kind of where I had to think outside the box. And I highly recommend this to anyone. This is 4 or 5 years ago, so I don't know if it would still work, but IMDb Pro lists everybody's managers and reps. So I just went through and I looked at every single Hallmark writer or Lifetime Christmas writer, and I saw who they were rep by. And then I just sent out a mass query. Only heard back from maybe 3, and then one of them became my manager. And he really liked my sample. He's like, I see that you understand the formula. Let me start having you meet with producers, because really who makes these movies there's tons and tons of little production companies all over LA and Canada that make these movies for Lifetime, for Hallmark. And so he's like, you need to start having meetings with those.
Oh.
And so that I met with this one company, Hybrid, who does a lot. And luckily that year, for some reason, Lifetime was doing 10-minute short Christmas movies. They haven't done it since, and they never did it before, but there was kind of like doing what Pixar does. And so they needed, you know, writers who would do a 10-minute Christmas short. And so Hybrid was producing a bunch, and they remembered my script, and they in our meeting, and they asked if I wanted to do one. And so then I got to write what became the Ugly Christmas Sweater. And they liked my work on that. So they asked if I had any pitches, and I pitched them one, and they sold it to Ion for that next year. And then gave me 3 more, and it just, it kept coming. And I was just so grateful, because I hadn't even thought about the TV movie world. And it kind of just showed me, you got to think outside the box when it comes to screenwriting, because if you try to take what you think is the right path and that everyone's doing, it doesn't always work out.
True.
But also, I just want to say, like, that's my story, and everyone has such a different story in this business that there's no one right way to do anything.
Right. And it must be more difficult now, because it has grown so immensely, this holiday movie world, even in the last couple years. It's just like exploded. So yeah. So I think your advice is great. I think that anyone who's trying to do something in a niche should do exactly what you did, and go find the managers and producers and people who are working on those projects. And that's who you reach out to.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the process of let's start from the beginning. So when you have currently, and we'll do it just currently, when you have an idea, or you have ideas, what do you do? Do you pitch ideas first? Who are you pitching to? Like, what's the process like for you from nuts to bolts of idea through the film, being shot and all of that?
No, that's a good question. So it varies. I'll take you on 2 different tracks because a lot of my jobs are the producer has already sold a concept to Hallmark or Lifetime, and they're looking to bring on a writer. So I'd say maybe 3/4 of the ones I've written were, hey, this is the concept. Do you want to come write it? Now it's usually brief. Usually it's a few sentences. It's and then sometimes, of course, that producer then takes story by credit, but
sure,
that's just how it is. And so then I basically so when that happens, they've already gotten me approved as the writer by the network. And so it's the production company that hires me freelance, and I kind of go through the process. And I'll get to the process, but let me back up. For when it is an original pitch, which I've gotten a few through, those are usually, I've done them both live and just with a 2-pager. So a 2-pager, just basically the beginning, middle, and end, and the big Christmas moments are included in that. Or when I'm pitching it, that's what I include in the pitch. Now, if that gets sold and greenlit, and usually I always do it with a producer attached. So that's a really big part of these TV movies is think of the producers and these production companies that make them as the studio, and Hallmark and Netflix or Lifetime, they're the network. So it's the same kind of as a TV show where you first report to your studio, then you report to your network. So so then I get the idea greenlit, or they bring me on to write it. Then I basically go through the steps. So that's unlike what I was used to observing in a writer's room, is it's just me alone on my computer, or usually at a coffee shop. And because that's the LA cliche, right? And I start with basically a treatment, so 5 to 8 pages, and I have to figure out what the entire story is, each character arc. And in Hallmark and Lifetime Christmas, it's usually always centered around the female character. She's your main protagonist. And they really just look for the simple, what is she missing? What does she want? What is she going to learn by the end? And, for so long, they kept doing the cliche of, oh, she needs to learn to slow down and enjoy Christmas, and people kind of got tired of that. So now they're looking for like different things and other arcs you can give her. But usually then she learns something from her love interest, and the love interest learns something from her. And anyway, so that's usually done in a 5 to 8 page treatment. That goes to the producers, that goes to the network. They give notes on it. And then usually from there, I go to the outline, which usually ends up being about 20 pages, and it's every single scene. So that the outline I turn in, before I do the outline, I do my own beat sheet, because all of these are a 9-act structure.
Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that, the structure.
Yeah, so they're all a 9-act structure. So I'll just do like on digital cards, I'll beat out my things. Usually I'll do that kind of while I'm doing the treatment, because I can see it as it's going. And then so I take that and then go to outline a little paragraph about every single scene. And I have to say, I learned how to outline from working on a lot of these TV shows, because you have to turn in a really good outline. And then your script has to be different from your outline, which is kind of ironic, but they want, there's
no surprises. You're like, I know.
Yeah, it's like, well, because they don't want to have a script be like you're reading an outline. That's more like and so anyway, so then you send the outline, then you get the notes back on that. And then sometimes, and this has happened I just did a project called Butlers in Love, and sometimes it'll get stalled in different processes. So they won't like the outline, or they'll like, this isn't the direction you want, let's do another outline. And that can be really frustrating. And so you kind of get it to a place where they're like, okay, then the network sends you the script. Usually you turn in the first draft, they'll be like, we love it, here's 10 pages full of notes, completely changing everything.
Sure.
And so that's the one thing I've learned over time, is the network's always right. You give them what they want, but you do it in a way that's satisfying to you, which it was, it's probably where you push your most creativity, trying to figure that out and like solving the puzzle.
How long does it take you from that first treatment
Yeah.
to finishing the script? Like how fast do you go through that process?
So that depends usually on the production company and the project. I've had it be where, for an example, we're trying to get one greenlit that will come out for Christmas in July, knock on wood. But basically I pitched it in December. Second draft is due probably tonight. And,
Good luck with that.
and they want to shoot in April. So sometimes it's really quick. Then again, things like Butlers and Love took 3 years in development.
Mm.
So that got passed to different executives. People left. They were like, do we want to do this? Because it was so different. It's a Hallmark movie about a Butler Academy. So it really varies. Usually I'll get about 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks for the script, maybe like 2.5 on the outline. That's what I usually is the best. I get my best work done. But sometimes there's been times where like, we need you to do this in a week or whatever, or like, maybe next year. So it just depends on when it's slated to go into production, and there's all those factors.
Excellent. So you talked about the 9-act structure. Yes. Was that something that you mentioned earlier that, you watched the movies and you kind of broke it down, yourself? Was it the same? Like, did you break it down yourself before you even knew that it was a 9-act structure? Did you know then, or did you sort of like go, who told you it was a 9-act structure, and how did you sort of work with that?
Totally. No, that's a good question. So I was so used to writing 5 and 6-act structure pilots for like trying to get into the CW space. So I was kind of in that mind frame, but in LMU, of course, we learned the 3-act structure for all features. And that is just rule of thumb for every movie. So when I watched tons and tons of the Hallmark movies, I broke it down in a 3-act structure. Okay. Because they still hit all the points you would in a 3-act structure, but then they tweak it a little bit because they all have 7 commercial breaks.
Right.
So it wasn't until I got my first assignment, like the greenlit, I think it was like a wedding for Christmas. It was for Ion, really low budget, but they said we need this with act breaks, and I was like, what? And so the producer sent me some examples, and I saw, and then it wasn't until my first Hallmark movie that they were like, oh, your act 3 out needs to be your act 4 out, because that's our hour mark. So that kind of like, but so breaking it down kind of was a process to learn as I went and as like the notes came in and the feedback. But the general concept is just like every romantic comedy, girl meets boy, there's conflict, things don't work out. Will they ever, all is lost, and then they get together. So that like, that part stays the same.
It snows, and then there's hot chocolate.
Yeah, and so what I learned in Christmas is each 9 acts needs to have a pretty big Christmas event or Christmas piece or Christmas activity. I've gotten notes where the executive said, it's been 15 pages and they haven't had a Christmas activity, And
yeah, let's talk about these rules. Are there like the rules of, does every scene have to be Christmas heavy, or like, you know what I mean? Like, are there rules that you've learned through this process that you're like, okay, these are the rules of a Hallmark movie that are tried and true and are in every notes that I ever get, like, this is what it is?
Yes. So it's kind of changing right now. And there's some things that are just, Hallmark is a brand, and Lifetime models their Christmas movies after Hallmark's. Mm-hmm. So there's some things you have to do. And that goes up to production design. Every single room has to look like it just like birthed Christmas. And even if I write characters and I'll put in the script because the character doesn't like Christmas yet, that obviously their apartment wouldn't be decorated for Christmas. Sure. And then I watch the cut, and of course it's there because Hallmark is like, no, you need garland, you need tinsel. And it's like, but they don't, it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if the character likes it or not. So then there was like, so in like 2017, 2018, There's some very solid 2019 solid rules. People couldn't be very angry. Kids couldn't roll their eyes. Like really, those were such specific rules. And then honestly, they got a new CEO, and I think it really helped everything. It helped their diversity. It helped. They wanted characters to have real emotions. Now I can write my characters to be sarcastic and I don't get flagged on it. I can put more humor in it. So it really has been evolving, which I find really interesting. And I think it's because there's so many different platforms and streaming services now that do Christmas movies. And so Hallmark kind of now has to, they were the leader, now they have to keep up.
Right.
But there's still things like, you know, you can't have overly, you know, if anything gets overly emotional or serious, it gets put on the Hallmark's Movie and Mysteries channel. I learned this because I had one, Christmas Wonderland. It was a really fun story. It's about an artist. She goes to her hometown, blah, blah, blah. They're like, oh, the tone's too serious. We're going to put it on Hallmark Movies. Like, okay. So anyway, so there are rules. They're changing. There used to be only one kiss rule. Now you can have multiple kisses.
Oh,
Really exciting. And you know,
I love these rules.
Yeah,
it cracks me up.
It's fun. And like you know, they used to, trying to think of other ones, like, and then like I used to get notes like, hey, you can't have the parents hanging the stockings because some of our viewers still believe Santa does that. And those kind of notes have fizzled out since they've kind of rebranded and been like, you know, we can still tell wholesome stories with having actual people's feelings in reality. So yeah.
Donna just wrote in the chat. Donna wrote, you can have multiple kisses. What is happening?
I know it's great. If you watch Check Into Christmas, which was my first original pitch to Hallmark, it's a Romeo and Juliet with competing hotels in the same small town. They kiss twice.
Ooh, so maybe you're the trailblazer of that. Multiple kiss.
I'll take credit for that. I think in my one, The Christmas Ring too, there's 2 kisses. So yeah, things can get crazy.
Crazy. Well, on that same note, let's talk about diversity, because from what we see in it, and if you see those like memes online where it's like the Hallmark Christmas posters, it's like the woman's in red and the white man's in green, and it's like the same pose over and over and over and over and over. So do you feel like that there's room coming up for more diversity, or is it still sort of like they're sticking to that, you know, the way that it's always been?
No, I think honestly it helped because they have a Black woman as their CEO now, and she's made a really great push for I always forget her last name. It's her first name's Wanya, and she's done a really great push for like authentic diversity. So I've seen that meme, and I've also seen a meme from this year, and it looks completely different.
Oh, good.
And you know, and there's been my one Christmas Ring, they're like, we want this to be a diversity movie, and we had the first like Indian actress, and like, so they're trying. They're definitely, you know, they don't want to be a whitewashed thing. At the same time, it's really, I know they have this, you know, mid America to please, and they're, you know, a little behind the times. So I think they're finding their balance, and I see them doing more and more. I know they had like Holiday in Harlem, stuff like that. So, which I was asked to do a rewrite on, and I was like, no, you've got to find was I interested in writing it? I was like, no, you need to find an African-American writer for that. Like, this is, you can't, if you're correcting yourself, you know?
Right.
So I think they're trying. I think, so right now, as far as like LGBTQ, I've been trying to put in, so I had a picture perfect holiday on Lifetime. And that I made the B storyline 2 lesbians who wanted to get engaged at this photography retreat. So I try to put it in where I can in Staging Christmas. He had a sister that was gay. You know, now I think Lifetime had their first one where it was the A plot last season. So I feel like Lifetime is a little ahead of itself there. Hallmark, I know, had Christmas House with Jonathan Bennett. The problem is they kind of promoted that as that being the A storyline. It was more of like a B and ensemble piece. and I'm still like, the one I'm writing now, I have a really significant gay character, and I'm trying to, and the note I did get is like, don't make him gay just to make him gay. And I was like, but why not? It doesn't, like, who cares? Like, so yeah, I think again, it's society and culture and making small steps. But as someone who is gay and writes tons of heteronormative love stories and loves regular rom-coms, I just see it as like, I want to make things where you can put anyone in the lead roles of any gender, any whatever, and it's the same beats, it's the same story, it's the same falling in love. It shouldn't be a huge thing. It shouldn't be like, oh my God, like, I loved Happiest Season. I'm glad they made that, but it was all about like, oh God, this is so hard because we're gay. Instead of just being like, what if it was just a regular rom-com and they were gay? So I don't know. But everyone has their own point of view of that. And I think, yeah. So I guess hopefully that answers some of that.
Yeah, totally. I think that's great, because I think a lot of people are, as writers, you always want to push the envelope a little bit, but like, is there room to push in that way appropriately?
Right.
Or are you spinning your wheels in that sense? So I think that, it's good that there's always forward movement and momentum in that way, as long as it's authentic.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that, even though the bus is slow, it's still rolling and it's getting there.
Yeah. Totally. Well, I mean, that's kind of a lot of why the other CEO stepped down, is because all that controversy with Hallmark and the lesbian kiss commercial.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they kind of got an awakening with that and realized like, oh, we got to get up on the times and be inclusive. So
right.
Yeah, I've always, it's one of the first things I said to my manager when we had our first meeting was like, I'm not like a super indie artist writer. I really love big commercial, entertaining, those running through the airport, big kiss. It's like, you just are swept away. It's not slice of life. I'm here to entertain, like, so it's like, I want to change the world, but through in that way where it's subtle and I'm not trying to make huge waves, because I think doing it in a more subtle way is like, I don't know, better in the long run.
Right. And that's what works for you. And you found like you found your space of what makes you happy. Yeah. What is there anything that ever gets you frustrated, or like writing these type of movies? Do you ever like, how do you generate a new idea when it feels like it's sort of the same thing they've already all been done? Like, do you have any tricks for yourself or anything to like go, okay, I've seen that, or it's okay, I've seen that. How do I shift it a little bit? Like what tips or tricks do you have in that way?
Well, I think that's kind of what makes this kind of line of work you have to push you creatively the most of anything, because it's easy to be like, okay, I'm going to write a movie about anything. And then it's like, it's like you could do anything. The fact that you have to do it within these parameters, I think, is more fun as of a like problem solve. So one of the things I do is like, obviously, Hallmark always wants to see something they haven't seen before, or Lifetime. What is different about this movie? So an example, last year I was assigned the premise was, hey, two people book the same Airbnb, which we've seen, right? It's like, so what is right? I was like, oh my God, this is like, okay. We've never seen a Christmas photography retreat. Do they exist? I don't know, but now they do. And so the whole movie then was all around this Christmas photography retreat, and the two photographers who have very different, points of view of what it means to be a good photographer. Oh my God, they booked the same Airbnb at this retreat. So a lot of it then is also, I try to find events or things we haven't heard of, we haven't seen. Because like every movie has the Christmas fair and the Christmas tree lighting, and like sometimes you want those beats, but you want it in a greater thing that you haven't seen. I did like a mystery of this woman finds an engagement ring with a Christmas engraving on it, so she tries to track it down. Like in a way, the ideas are endless, even though so many have been done before. I think that's part of the fun, is like, well, what would be interesting for Christmas? What's an interesting what do we do? What does society do at Christmas time that we haven't seen? There's so many great, I mean, my search history is like, activities of Christmas all around the world, and like this, and like, I pitched one about this house that I saw that they do, like they dress up like, in like Dickensian times, and they have a house like living museum, and I haven't sold that one yet, but stuff like that where it's like, okay, what's different about it?
I just picture you in the holiday season, like you're like in research mode where you're just like everything. What are they doing over there? What are they doing?
Yeah.
Just picture you doing it.
It's really funny because I grew up Jewish, so I never even celebrated Christmas. So I think it's kind of like, but that's, I think, why I love these things and it's so cathartic, is because I always, saw my friends who did celebrate Christmas, and, not that, because they never want really religious stuff. They want it to be completely secular. And it's just, it's all the pop culture things, right? Like Coca-Cola is what designed the Santa Claus suit that we know today. Like that, it has nothing to do with anything, the birth of Christ or whatever. And so that's kind of what I love, is it's all about a feeling, and, yeah, so it's funny because you say around Christmas time, but really for me, it's Christmas all year round.
Do you like Christmas? Do you like the holidays, or is it just like, oh God, I'm forever?
I think since I had like, years of not celebrating it, I'm like, yeah, let's do it a year round every year. And also it's like, I mean, there's always going to be people who hate Christmas or whatever, or think it's too commercialized, but it's just, I love snow. I was born in Colorado. It's the feeling. And it's escapism. And life, as we've seen these last couple of years, is really hard. So why not live in a world where everything works out?
In a lovely snow globe of loveliness. Yeah.
Exactly. Like what's wrong? There's nothing wrong with that. Like, so yeah, that's kind of my point of view.
So when it comes to, we know how you found your manager. Are there, like when you're talking about managers, and if somebody's looking for somebody to be their manager and they write this kind of movie, does your manager, and you don't have to tell me who it is or any of that stuff, but do they take new writers, or are they pretty much like, here's my Christmas movie writers, we're good? Like, is it hard out there right now? In this area?
That's a really good question. I don't know with the current climate, because I got, I luckily found mine because he already repped a few Christmas writers, and he totally wanted to read more. Now I don't know if he's probably at his quota.
Yeah.
He's always told me like, oh, if you're gonna send me someone else's script, it better be the best script you've ever read. I'm like, okay. So I don't know if I can give the best answer. I can say they're making so much of this content and on so many different platforms.
Yeah.
That I would reach out now to both the managers and agents and people who write these, but I would also look, if you're looking to get into this, to the production companies and the producers who make these. Because there's a lot that want new writers because they kind of want to buy a less expensive script. And that's a way in. I was getting paid almost nothing for my first couple of scripts, and my manager now can negotiate higher. Because a lot of them are, when you start out, it's non-signatory, these production companies, so it's not WGA right away. So I would reach out to production companies that make it, because there are tons.
Yeah, and there's more and more now. Yeah.
Someone just asked, am I WGA? So I'm just Writers Guild Canada. And that lets me do a lot of this non-signatory companies while still getting paid the fair amount.
Right.
Sorry, I got distracted by that question.
It's okay.
Yes, and then so a lot of these production companies also have development people. And that is something you should research. So look at like the people like Real One makes so many of these movies a year. Because they sell a lot to like Canada and Up TV, and like there's so many other platforms. So they're always taking new writers, and they're always looking. And there's a development exec. I'm going to tell her that I did a shout out to her, and she did influx of scripts and whatever. But find the point of it being find the development people who work at this company, because their main job is just to read these scripts and see, okay, we can buy this one for this amount. Someone said who, I would say her name, but like I shouldn't. I don't want to. But if you look up development executives at Real One, maybe you can find her. Yeah, so I would look again. It's always outside the box, and
right.
Yeah, Real One.
If you're gonna reach out, you got to have a good log line.
Good, yeah. Definitely have your sample already.
Yeah.
It's like, unfortunately, it's just, you can't just be like, all right, I want to pitch this. They need to see that you can write it, and that you can write it to the formula.
Okay.
That you bring something new to it that they haven't seen.
Right.
So definitely have it ready. Don't send the script, send the log line, and send a little bit about why you love these movies and why you know these movies.
Right.
Because, and then another thing that's really good is they're looking for writers who can turn these out and turn them out not too quickly, but in a, unlike regular features that take 5 to 10 years to make, these sometimes are only like in, you have 4 or 5 months, or, they're really fast. So if, you can say, oh, I've worked in like, I don't know, just when you're talking yourself up, make sure you understand kind of this world.
You can write fast and
you can
get
write
it done.
fast and give them a product they like, because that's what they're looking for.
Is there, I've always wondered this, is there like a time of year that the Christmas movies are like, do they have to film them in a certain months to have them ready for Christmas? Or is it now just like year round they're doing it? Because I feel like it used to be like they all film in the spring to be ready for Christmas. And like,
right. Well, it's weird because sometimes their green lighting is so bizarre to me, because then it ends up where you're shooting in spring and summer, these movies, and then so you have to bring in tons of fake snow. So most of my movies have shot in Utah in the summer, where they're in parkas, but they're supposed to be in like Alaska, and it's like 100-degree heat. And so I'm always like, why can't they light it earlier, and then we can shoot it when there's actual winter? So, but it honestly, it depends on the project. And it depends on the actor's availability and like all this stuff. So right now it's kind of year round. A lot of times, like I know at Hallmark, they'll be like, usually like end of December going into January, they'll start gearing up. But then they'll have ones that have been in development for a while, so you're competing with those. So there's not really an exact season. And a lot of these production companies will just make them year round, because a lot of them will then license or sell it to Hallmark or Lifetime or Ryan, or now IMDb TV has it. Like, so yeah, there's not really a great time. It's all the time now. Yeah.
Okay, it's all the time now. So for you, I'm gonna open it up to. We're gonna look at the Q&A questions in a minute. So if anybody has any questions, there's a lot of questions in there right now. But if there's something that we haven't covered and you want to ask it, put it in the Q&A box now. We're going to get to those next. But I wanted to ask you, Anna, what's next for you? Like what, in terms of goals for yourself, like what do you have your eyes on next? I know that before we started, you were talking about how you love horror and thrillers and those types of movies too. So are you, and The Bachelor, everybody, she loves Bachelor. Are you gonna venture a little bit like over? Are you doing that already? Like what is current and next for you?
Well, so it's interesting because Lifetime, for the rest of the year, it's only during Christmas they do the rom-coms. The rest of the year they do these kind of fun, kitschy, cheesy thrillers. So they do a whole month of cheerleading thrillers. So one of the production companies that I work for did a lot of Christmas. They're like, would you want to try doing a cheer thriller? And my two loves are thrillers and rom-coms. So I was like, yes.
I thought you were going to say my two loves are cheerleading and
oh no.
Like,
again, I've never cheerled. I have no experience in that, but just like Christmas, hey, I love Bring It On. I get that, So so that's been fun. And so then I've been doing a few other, I wrote another thriller that I'm hoping to sell outside of Lifetime. We'll see how that goes. But I definitely would love to expand my writing universe. The thing is, I at no point want to be like, well, I'm done with Hallmark and Lifetime.
Sure.
Because it's been such a great steady stream of work. And I really do enjoy it. And I like living in these worlds. What's next is so I got to shadow the director on one of my Christmas movies this last year. And I really just want to try my hand at directing.
Awesome.
I'm not sure if I want to be, the next director. I just know I really want to direct things that I write because you see all the time, it'll just like, once I'm done with, and the network approves a script, then the director takes it. And some of the decisions, I'm just like, why? Right. And so maybe it's a little power control thing, but I just want to see what happens when I take the thing from beginning to end. So that's kind of my next goal, working towards that. And then, I would love to, obviously I worked so long in TV. I hope to one day, who wouldn't want to be a showrunner one day? I have a million dreams. I want to be, I want to win an Oscar and at the same year have a Hallmark Christmas movie here. Because I don't think that's been done before.
My background light just turned off. Hold on one sec. That was very weird. Okay, I'm in the dark. So now we're getting more romantic. I
love it. Or thriller.
Oh yeah, we're in the thriller world.
Yeah, behind you.
Go like, I love that you're going to shoot for directing. I think that a lot of writers, we feel that frustration of it's good, and then it gets taken by a director who puts themselves into it, which is understandable. Right, but come on.
And again, it's a collaborative business, and sometimes they'll bring really great ideas. But with Christmas movies, let me direct them. Like, I get it.
Well, you should now. I think that you understood the assignment now, and that you're like ready to do that. Okay, so we're gonna try to dive into some of these Q&As. There's 36 in here. So, okay, so Anonymous is asking, you mentioned you broke down the formula for Lifetime and Hallmark. I've seen the formula referred to before, but without the contents of the formula. Are you able to share your perspective on said formula? So I know you said like the beginning of it is, woman who has some sort of issue or doesn't like Christmas or is sad, and then goes somewhere new. And then, is there like a formula of bloop, 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 bloop?
Well, what I do, which is, it's a little different each time, but it's basically, what does this character want? What do they need? And usually their want involves, you see them working at an advertising agency in the beginning, and they want that promotion, right? And what do they really need? They really need to learn how important family is in their life, right? So that takes care of it. You know exactly where you got to go over those 9 acts. Then you go, okay, well, the end of the 4th act is the hour mark, so we have to have a big cliffhanger there. End of your act 8 is the all is lost moment, which is always so funny to me because that means you only have 5 minutes to resolve everything in act 9. Because usually your all is lost leads into your act 3 in the 3-act structure. But this is kind of, you have to condense it a little bit. So, and then, it's the same as the 3-act structure. Your 1, 2, and 3 is your rising action. Your 4, 5, 6, 7 is your falling action. And then your 8 is your all is lost. 9 is you resolve it. She's learned her lesson. You have your big kiss under the Christmas tree, under the lights. That's kind of the basic formula. And then of course your subplots just parallel that. And I definitely do every character, even the romantic lead who's just there to look like a hot model. He needs a want and need too, and they're really big about that at Hallmark. Well, a lot of times I'll turn in something or a treatment and they'll be like, get it, but like, why does he like her? What is he missing that she has? And vice versa. What does she have that he's missing? And they're really big on that. And sometimes it can be very subtle or very small, but that's a good kind of your grounding for the entire thing.
I think that was very helpful, and you guys can watch this replay and write all of that down, like rewind and write it down again. So you're gonna have to watch the replay If you didn't catch all of those,
Yeah,
you
sorry
can
if that
watch.
was bad.
It's fine, but you can watch it again and write it all down.
Also, just watch a bunch of these movies and to the commercial breaks and write what beats happen when, and you'll it's there. It's your, and then you take your own roadmap.
This is an interesting question on that same line, and maybe you're going to say just watch the movies, but do you know if there's a good resource online to actually read the genuine scripts versus the transcripts of these movies?
Ooh, that I don't know of any. But definitely, like, if any of them are produced, you can always, on Twitter, reach out to Hallmark or whatever and ask for ones that are already produced. I'm sure there's general info emails for all these companies if you want to read some. Because the ones that are already produced and out there, anyone could read. So yeah, but I don't know of an exact site. Sorry.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think everyone's always like looking for the real script versus the transcript that somebody has typed up from watching it.
Oh,
but
totally. Believe me, I was reading the Scream script, the original Scream, the other day, and I was like, wait a minute, this is a transcript. This isn't it.
I know, you're like, wait, this is exactly okay.
No, I get it. You want the real, you want your action, the script, and yeah, I
get it. Yeah. This is interesting, and it'd be good to get your perspective on this. Paul's asking, is an unproduced writer wasting their time by pitching these scripts that don't fit that formula? He says, I have one that does well in contests, but it just sits there like a dead fish, and I suspect it's because it's different. Do you think that when you're breaking in, you should just stick to the formula?
Yeah, for this particular niche. I mean, unfortunately, everyone is looking to what's the next big thing, so that you want something creative and original. But when it comes to these TV movies, these formulas, even if you're doing a theatrical romantic comedy, you gotta hit those certain beats. So if your story can be adapted to that, which I think a lot of stories could be, maybe try that, or try just writing something new along these lines, and then have that in your back pocket if you ever get to a point where someone's like, what else do you got? Or like, oh, you do holiday movies, what about this? But it's hard to get a job in the Christmas or holiday writing with a sample that isn't that, because they really just want to make sure you understand the formula and then bring something new to it.
Right. That makes sense. This is a really good question, actually. I should have asked you this. Thank you, Donna, for putting this in there. How much does budget come into play when you're writing one of these scripts? Do you think about budget, or is it just like
oh yeah, and this was a huge wake-up call, because my first one that I pitched to Ion, I was like, it's set in Maine, there's ice skating, there's sledding, there's blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, you gotta cut all of that. And like, especially when you find out this is shot in the summer, you have to really, really, really tweak it. So that was I was like, I had this one script where there's a snowman contest and the whole field is full of snowmen, and like that, and like oh yeah, we're really gonna do that in August in Utah. Like, so it plays a huge part. But it also, again, has, and especially like now that I want to direct and shadowing the director and seeing, oh, this is why, because this location costs this much, and like, and it's helped where I realized you can't do like a over 4-page scene is just, it's not profitable. It's not good. You can't have just one off location. You better use that location for multiple scenes, or the director is going to tweak your script. So yes, you're definitely writing to the fact that these are like, I think they can be anywhere from $1 to $2 million budget. And that is, it goes quick. So yes, you definitely write to a smaller budget movie.
Right. It's good to know. Okay. So a couple of people are asking, and you can just say none of your business if you don't want to say, but when you first were selling scripts, you said you basically made nothing, and they're like, well, what is nothing? So when you first started writing these, what were you selling them for?
Okay. No, that's okay. So the short film I got hired to write, they paid me $2,000. And then my first feature that got sold to Ion was $10,000. And now I'm making about what the Writers Guild Canada is for a TV feature, so they can look that up.
Good.
But that took time, and like I had to then do projects that were for sure shooting in Canada, and like it was a whole process. And I eventually will do the WGA when it gets to a point where I'm getting enough signatory production companies versus right now it just, I want to buy a condo. I'm trying to save money. So it's just, yeah, it's all kind of strategy, I guess. Yeah.
Andy's asking, and maybe you can just give your opinion. How many writing samples do you think you need if you're going out? Do you think you need 3? Do you think you need, if you're really going for this niche of like film, how many do you think you really need?
Oh, if you're just going for holiday movies, I think you just need one really good holiday movie spec. I mean, I have a whole portfolio of pilots that, my manager's like, I don't care. It's right now we're doing holiday movies. Like eventually now we're at the place where he's like, okay, what else do you got? But no, in the beginning, you just need one great sample of the holiday movie. Now, as someone who, there's so many different avenues in screenwriting, do like one great holiday movie, but then keep working on this pilot, or just like have all the irons in the fire. But you don't need multiple Christmas movie samples if you have one really good that shows you understand the format.
Excellent. Colleen's asking, would you say it's important to live in or move to a specific hub, i.e. LA, or do you have to live in LA to write? I don't think currently you do.
Absolutely not. I know a lot of Hallmark writers live all over the country. And actually I live in LA, but I dream about living in a little small town in Maine. But at the same time, I do have like bigger goals, so LA is good for that. But you don't have to. I've only gone into pitch in person at Hallmark one time.
Oh.
Otherwise it's been on Zoom, especially now with the pandemic. It was really funny because I went and pitched in December. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to Hallmark headquarters in December. It's going to be like the best, because there's a Christmas tree in every room and every scene. No one cannot have garland and tinsel. It's going to be great. And I get in there and there's one tree and a nutcracker. And I was like, what? And I was so sad. And then I do my pitch and they're like, okay, well, and they were saying, oh, we got our company Christmas party tonight. And they're like, and I was like, oh, what, is there a theme? And they're like, yeah, tropical. They don't do tropical movies. Like it was just so funny. Everything the opposite of what they tell the writers to do. I thought it was cool. But no, usually it's all on Zoom.
So when you're pitching, in those cases that you do actually get to pitch, how long is your pitch? Everyone always wants to know how long a pitch should be.
Totally. About 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I'll usually go off of a 1 or 2 pager, and kind of just do it orally. Like don't read it, but walk through what you have, and then they'll be like, okay, can you send us pages? And you send the 2-pager.
Right. And what's the most important aspect of that pitch? Is it telling them the whole story, or is it about the characters and what the characters, false goal is versus what they really need and what they're going to learn? Is it more about character arcs, or is it about laying out the story?
I mean, ideally you have to do both, but really what you should kick off the pitch with is what is different about this Christmas movie that we've never seen before. That's really what will grab their attention. Because if you go, okay, well, she's going to her hometown and she falls in love with her high school sweetheart, but if you're like, well, this is about a town that's actually on Mars that celebrates Christmas, like something like that. They're like, oh, I've never seen that before.
Right.
Not that, guys, but
that will not work.
What separates it? Yeah.
How many full scripts do you pump out in a year?
That's a good question. Last year, I think I did 4 or 5. So it was a lot, but I'm also trying to get a better work-life balance. So take that with a grain of salt. People tell me it's my Capricorn, but I don't know a lot about astrology.
When is your birthday?
January 14th.
Oh, that's my brother's birthday.
Oh.
Okay, so another one about how many you write. Oh, hello, Kat. Hello. That's Schlump. I don't know why he did that. Yeah. Do you get a written by credit, or do you ever just get a story by credit, or have you not gotten a credit? Like, what's the credit situation?
Yeah, no, luckily I've gotten a written by credit on all the ones that I've done a script. A few of my early ones, they hired me on to do basically a page 1 rewrite. So I had to do the entire script, but because of, different rules, it was a shared written by credit. So yeah, luckily I've never been screwed. I've been screwed out of a story by credit because the producer who came up with the 3-sentence concept was like, oh, this is, I'm like, oh,
This was
really?
my idea.
I'm like, oh, you added the lesbian couple storyline? Really? Come on. But yeah.
How many pages are your scripts generally?
Yeah, you have to. So for like a Lifetime thriller, they wanted about 99, 100. For Christmas, it's usually 105 is the max.
Good to know.
Yeah.
Is a Lifetime thriller that you do you follow that same 9-act structure, or is it different? You do?
No, it's actually very similar to the rom-com structure, especially with the hitting the beats. The end of the fourth act, you get your twist. You're all is lost. You think they're kidnapped. They're not going to get out of the situation. Is your act 8? It's all, yeah, it's still all 9 acts. All TV movies are usually 9 acts.
Awesome. They're asking about insight into the opening scene. So in Hallmark movies, is there like a big epic opening scene or an important opening scene? And give us some insight into that.
Yeah, well, something I wish they would change, and sometimes they do, but like mainly they don't, is a lot of it's just stock footage at the beginning of whatever scene it takes place in, and that's, it's like you hear the nice holiday music, and then you see like, oh, there's Rockefeller Center, and there's that, and it's like that's kind of their staple. They've done that. So really, what your opening is about your female protagonist. So your first scene jumping in is exactly like, well, okay, she's at work, she's working too hard, or, like they've done that, but you know what I'm saying? Like, so that's kind of your opening, is what is our introduction to our lead. And then you definitely want to have the romantic interest come at least, at the latest by page 15. So, and then, yeah, usually by page 30, which is, so now I'm thinking 3 acts. In TV, the end of the act 1 is usually around page 20, 21. And that should be your moment where you're clear what this is about. Oh, this is what she wants, this is what she needs, this is why I'm watching it. That's usually around page 21. Yeah.
Great. I feel like I've gotten through all the ones that we haven't talked about, so that is good. I am going to ask you any tips or tricks, any last minute advice that you have for writers. I mean, there seems to be a lot of people who are interested in sort of diving into the happy world of holiday movies. I think the main thing that I think a lot of people are pushing is for that diversity. And because there's so many different platforms that are opening up, it's not just only Hallmark now who are doing those. So, I mean, what's your advice in terms of like, maybe, it's like think outside of the box, but not too far outside of the box, like stay in the parameters, but like be different. How do you know an idea hasn't been done before? Just like any wisdom from Anna White.
Well, yeah, a lot of times the first thing I'll do is like, oh my God, this is a great title. Let me go to IMDb. Has this Christmas, a Christmas client? Has that been done? Okay. Is it about the same thing? Okay. Oh wait, have they done one about a ghost who blah, 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 blah. Let me type that into Google, and you'll be able to find that. So if you do need to weed that out. But I think definitely thinking, one thing that I think everyone should do is, what do you want to see? What do you want to see in these holiday movies? What family traditions or things you've witnessed or things you've always wanted to try? That's the other thing is like, I know a lot of people give the writing advice, write what you know, but I've made my bread and butter doing Christmas and cheerleading. And I'll tell you,
you're not writing what you know.
Yeah. So take that advice. Don't take it literally. What they mean is, have you ever had your heart broken? Have you ever wanted something so badly you could taste it and that's all you've thought about, and then you've missed out on this? What is the human experience that that you can bring to this holiday movie? A lot of my running theme in mind will be someone who's an assistant to someone and is just trying to break in. Because I had, that happened a lot, but it's with, in the restaurant world or whatever. So it's like, don't take that advice literally. If you're like, wow, I had this, I've been in this, I'm in a love square with like these two guys, blah, 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 blah. It's like, cool, set it in a different dimension, you know, like do something, what is different about it that's not literal. It's so funny, I try so hard to stay away from writers, characters who are writers, and the one I'm doing now, it ended up being, oh, I guess she's a writer. So I, you know, take everything I say with a grain of salt. There's no right way to do anything. Every path is different. And yeah,
Great.
I wish there was like a golden secret idea of success that I could give you. But I think it's just write what makes you happy. Don't write what you think you have to. If holiday movies don't bring you joy, don't write them. Write your sci-fi thriller. You know, like definitely write what you want to see and what you want to watch, and not, you know, I spent so long trying to write these procedurals because I was on as an assistant on these procedurals, and it just was a dead end. And it wasn't until I was like, I love watching people fall in love and having a happy ending. What am I doing? Why don't I write that? So yeah, kind of go in with that mind frame.
It's awesome. Thank you so much I feel like you gave so many great nuggets of information that literally someone just has to watch this back and just like start taking notes. If they weren't taking notes during this live, watch it again and the cat is just opening the door. That's awesome. Just take notes and write down every little nugget that Anna said, like sporadically throughout. I mean,
the Christmas cat. I don't know if they've ever done the Christmas cat. Someone should go look on IMDb. There you go.
Ideas are but I mean, I've learned a lot. I think that it's so important for us to hear from working writers who are actually sort of in the trenches and doing it. And I think that you've inspired a lot of people tonight to either like, okay, I'm diving in because this is what I want to do, or maybe I'm going to go over here and try something else.
I mean,
so
in anything, I'll just say this too, in anything, if you just know you want to get paid to write, just think outside the box. Like I have friends who write video games. I have friends, you know, it's like, we're so ingrained in, TV writing is you got to go in this way, you got to move up in this step. And it's just like, there's so many different avenues, especially now with all the different services and content providers. So yeah. And then, just never give up too. That's another thing. It's a numbers game. Don't put a time limit on it. Don't give up. If this is what you love, keep doing it.
Yes. I love that. Well, thank you, Anna, so much. And since you live in LA, I live in LA, we're going to go meet up in person sometime very soon.
Sounds good. I
love
love coffee.